Get her out, she's wasting our time. The manager's voice cracked across the showroom like a whip. He didn't whisper it. He wanted every client, every salesman, every set of polished chrome rims to hear. His hand flicked toward security, his jaw tight with contempt. The target of his order? A black woman in a denim shirt, clean sneakers, standing silently beside a luxury sedan worth more than most houses. She hadn't raised her voice once. She didn't have to. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change. And we're glad you're here. Now, back to her. 12 minutes earlier, she had walked in without a trace of performance. No handbag screaming brand names. No entourage. Just her, calm, purposeful. She placed her hand on the hood of the newest model in the dealership, fingers gliding across the steel as if measuring its worth. That's when the first snicker floated across the room. A salesman leaning back in his chair muttered to his colleague, "Wrong showroom, wrong client." They didn't lower their voices. They wanted her to hear. She didn't flinch. She'd heard this before. At 24, when she tried to test drive her first car, the dealer laughed at her sneakers. At 31, when she walked into a private lounge, they told her she must be in the wrong building. Years later, with billions under management, the insults hadn't vanished. They had only evolved. Now, the manager himself stepped in. Sharp suit, sharper tone. "Lady, I'm not repeating myself. This car is not for you. Real buyers don't look like this." He gestured at her clothes like they were evidence of fraud. The silence that followed was heavy, charged. A young trainee shifted nervously near the desk, unsure whether to intervene. A customer at the coffee bar lifted a phone halfway, his thumb hovering over record. Her response? Still nothing. Just a slow breath, steady eyes, the kind of silence that unsettled men who thought power lived in volume. And that's what rattled him most. Not her outfit, not her request, but the fact that she stood there, unshaken, in a space he thought he owned. What he didn't know, in exactly 12 minutes, ownership would no longer be in question. The manager didn't back down. He leaned in closer, his cologne sharp, his voice sharper. "I don't know what stunt you're trying to pull, but you need to walk out before I call security." Her eyes didn't waver. She had heard the same threat at 23, when her first real estate commission was dismissed as luck. She had heard it again at 30, when a banker told her collateral wasn't enough, even though she brought 30% more than required. And now, standing in front of a car she could buy 10 times over, she was hearing it again. Different faces, same prejudice. Across the room, the young trainee shifted on his heels, then whispered under his breath, "She has the look, like she belongs." But the words never made it past his lips. The manager slapped his palm against a clipboard, tearing the top sheet away. The contract page fluttered, ripped in half, and hit the tiled floor. "See? No record, no purchase. You don't belong here." Gasps rippled. One customer, mid-sip of his coffee, lowered the cup slowly. Another raised his phone higher this time, the red record light glowing. She bent down, not to pick up the torn page, but to straighten her sleeve, as if the insult was just paper and nothing more. Silence filled the space around her like armor. "Security!" the manager barked. A tall guard in a pressed blazer started across the showroom, his shoes thudding against marble. But as he reached for his radio, something unexpected happened. His earpiece chirped, then cut out with a static buzz. He tapped it again, frowned, tapped harder. Nothing. The showroom manager frowned. "What's wrong?" The guard's voice was low, uneasy. I just lost access. System locked me out." The woman didn't move. She simply folded her arms, her gaze steady. The customer with the phone whispered into his mic, "This is bigger than a car sale. Something's happening right now." His livestream counter ticked upward. First a dozen viewers, then hundreds. The manager's face flushed red. He grabbed the torn paper off the floor, slammed it against his desk, and sneered. "You think silence will save you? Not here." But silence wasn't saving her. Silence was setting the stage, and the stage was almost ready. "Escort her out," the manager snapped again, louder this time, as though volume could turn prejudice into policy. The guard hesitated, eyes flicking between the frozen tablet screen at his desk and the woman still standing calm beside the yellow sedan. His hand twitched near her arm, but he didn't move closer. Something about her presence made every step heavier. From the far corner, A middle-aged customer muttered, "She didn't do anything. Why push her out?" His words were quiet, but they carried, bouncing off glass walls and polished floors. The manager ignored it. He turned to his sales team, rallying them like soldiers. "Don't waste time on this. Real clients are waiting." One salesman chuckled, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Yeah, pawn shops are 2 blocks down." Laughter rolled thin and cruel across the showroom. The woman finally lifted her gaze, eyes moving slowly from face to face, landing back on the manager. Still no words, just silence. And that silence unsettled him more than protest ever could. He slammed the shredded contract on the desk again, veins visible in his neck. "Say something. Prove you belong here." A young trainee by the brochure stand whispered, "She doesn't need to." He said it under his breath, but the customer with the live stream caught it. Voice feeding into hundreds of phones now glowing across different cities. Comments flashed. "This is wrong. She's calm while they're losing it. Where is this happening?" The manager, desperate, gestured toward the car itself. "You think you can afford this? On what hope? Fantasy?" He leaned closer, smirking. "People like you test cars. People like me buy them." That line hung in the air like a bad stench. The woman finally moved. She adjusted her sleeve again, her voice even, almost quiet. "You're very sure of what I can't do." It wasn't shouted. It didn't need to be. The words cut deeper because of how softly they landed. The manager scoffed, turning back to his desk. "Security now. End this." But the guard's voice broke through, uneasy. "Sir, my access badge just went red. System says authorization revoked." The room stilled. Phones kept filming. The live stream's viewer count hit thousands. The woman didn't flinch. She didn't smile either. She just let the silence breathe until every eye was on her. 12 minutes. That was all it would take. And the clock was still ticking. The manager's jaw tightened. He could feel the crowd turning, feel the silence growing heavier, but he doubled down. "Red badge or not, I run this floor," he barked, jabbing a finger at the guard. "Do your job." The guard shifted uncomfortably, but didn't move. Frustrated, the manager snatched the crumpled contract from the desk and marched toward her. He held it inches from her face, then let it fall deliberately, fluttering down to her sneakers like garbage tossed aside. "There," he sneered. "That's your place. On the floor." Gasps echoed again. A woman near the coffee machine shook her head in disbelief. Did he just... The live stream caught it all. Comments poured in. "Unreal. They really don't know who she is. Keep filming." The CEO finally bent down not to pick up the torn paper, but to smooth the crease of her pant leg. She rose slowly, her eyes fixed on him. Calm, controlled. The kind of calm that made his voice falter even as he tried to sound in command. "You think silence makes you strong?" he spat. "It makes you weak. You don't belong in this showroom, and you never will." At that, the trainee finally broke. His voice cracked but carried, "She belongs here more than you." Head snapped toward him. His cheeks burned red, but he didn't back down. The manager's face flushed, half with rage, half with fear. He pointed at the trainee. "You're finished. Clean out your desk tonight." The young man's lips trembled, but his eyes stayed fixed on her. "I'll be fine," he whispered, "because I know who she is." The manager's hand slammed against the desk again, rattling brochures and pens. "Enough! Security, get her out before this circus spreads any further." But it already had. The live stream ticker rolled past 10,000 viewers. Phones buzzed in people's pockets across the country. And then, the dramatic crack in the air. The digital screen on the luxury sedan she'd been eyeing suddenly lit up. A welcome message glowed in bold white letters. "Authorized account. Executive access. Carter Group." The crowd gasped. The manager froze. Even the guard stepped back, his voice almost a whisper. That's not supposed to happen." She didn't touch the car. She didn't even glance at the glowing screen. She just stood there, calm, letting the weight of the moment fall where it belonged. 12 minutes, and the countdown had just reached its halfway mark. The glowing words on the sedan's digital display lingered, casting a quiet, eerie light across the polished showroom. For a moment, no one moved, no one spoke. Then the manager snapped, his voice cutting through the silence like broken glass. "Glitch," he barked. "That's all it is. Some tech hiccup. Don't read into it." "Oh," but the unease in his tone betrayed him. Customers were whispering, heads tilted, phones rising higher. The live stream counter jumped again. The CEO didn't answer. She simply stood still, her hands folded neatly in front of her. The stillness agitated him more than any words could have. His breath came quicker, his face a deeper shade of red. Finally, he marched to her side, yanked a glossy brochure from the display rack, and slammed it against her chest. The sound echoed. "Here, this is all you get, a pamphlet, that's your car." The brochure slid off her shirt and fell to the marble floor. She didn't reach for it. She didn't flinch. A man standing by the coffee counter muttered, "That's crossing a line." His voice wasn't loud, but in the silence, it carried. The manager whirled toward him. "Mind your own business," he barked. Then back to her, almost shaking with rage. "Say something, or leave. You're not a client. You're a problem." At that, the trainee finally stepped forward, his voice trembling but steady enough to cut the air. "She's not the problem. You are." The manager spun on him, incredulous. "Do you want to get fired on the spot?" The young man swallowed hard, then nodded once. "If it means telling the truth, then yes." Phones lifted higher. Comments rolled in faster. "This feels historic. The trainee's a hero. Who is she?" The manager, cornered but still clinging to authority, made his boldest move yet. He strode back to the desk, grabbed the sleek black reservation folder she had placed earlier, and ripped it clean down the middle. Pages fluttered like feathers, scattering at her feet. Gasps exploded. A woman in the corner covered her mouth. A man cursed under his breath. The live stream surged past 20,000 viewers. The manager's voice rose, cracking with the strain. "This is my showroom. You don't belong here, and no fancy glitch or staged stunt is going to change that." The CEO lifted her gaze at last, her eyes locking onto his, calm, sharp, unshaken. And when she finally spoke, her voice was low, measured, almost surgical. "You just made a mistake that can't be undone." The torn folder lay scattered at her feet like a trail of insult. Pages curled and flapped slightly under the hum of the showroom's AC. Every eye tracked them, then her. But she didn't bend down. She didn't argue. Instead, she reached calmly into her pocket and pulled out a phone. The manager scoffed. "Oh, here we go, calling someone to back you up? Call whoever you want. No one's saving you here." She pressed one button. The line picked up instantly. "Protocol in effect," she said softly, as if confirming the weather. On the other end, a woman's voice came crisp and professional. "Understood. Internal systems engaged. Live documentation begins now." The manager laughed bitterly. "What is this, some kind of show?" He turned to the crowd, seeking validation. "She's staging this. Don't fall for it." But the crowd wasn't with him anymore. A man holding a phone whispered into his live stream, "This doesn't feel staged. This feels like evidence." The guard at the door shifted uneasily, eyes darting from the glowing sedan display to the woman's steady stance. He muttered under his breath, "She's not bluffing." The CEO raised her gaze at the manager, her tone still measured. "Every word you've said, every action you've taken, it's all being recorded, and it's all binding." The room stilled again. The trainee near the brochures finally stepped forward, his voice trembling but resolute. "Sir, maybe we should—" "Quiet!" the manager barked, cutting him off. His composure was unraveling. Sweat pooled at his temples, his collar suddenly too tight. "You don't tell me how to run my floor!" Her phone chimed once. The voice on the line spoke again. "Confirmation received. Corporate notified. Do you want immediate action?" The manager's laugh cracked like broken glass. "Corporate? Do you have any idea who I am?" Her reply came like a scalpel, clean and devastating. "Do you have any idea who I am?" The silence that followed was electric. Even the hum of the AC felt louder, sharper. In the corner, the live stream ticker surged past 30,000. Comments exploded. "She's flipping it. Something big is coming. This manager's done." The manager's hands trembled now, but he tried to cover it with one last sneer. "Fine. Call your little friends. It won't change a thing." But deep down, he knew. The change had already begun. The manager's laugh faded quickly, replaced by the nervous tapping of his fingers on the desk. He grabbed the nearest keyboard, typing furiously. "System's fine, watch." But the screen didn't obey. Instead of the dealership's dashboard, an error message blinked in bold red. "Access denied. Authorization revoked." His face drained of color. The guard leaned closer, whispering so the whole room could hear. "That's the same message I got." The crowd murmured. Someone in the back said, "Wait, is she shutting them down?" The live stream counter shot higher. 30,000 turned to 40, then 50. Comments flew across the screen. "This is insane. She's in control. Manager's done for." The manager slammed the keyboard, keys clattering like brittle teeth. "Glitch! That's all this is. Just a damn glitch." But the words lacked conviction. His voice cracked. His authority bled into the marble floor with every syllable. The trainee, heart pounding but unable to stay quiet, finally raised his voice. "Sir, stop. Look around you. This isn't a glitch." The manager spun, face twisted with rage. "You shut your mouth." His finger jabbed at the young man. "You're finished the moment this is over." But the crowd wasn't siding with him anymore. A woman in a navy coat shook her head. "He's scared. Look at him." The CEO still hadn't raised her tone. She hadn't moved more than a few steps. She simply held her phone at her side, its screen dim but alive, its speaker still open. The calmness was louder than his shouting. Finally, she spoke again. "Every second you keep this up is another nail in your career." It wasn't a threat. It was a fact, delivered with the same quiet certainty as the ticking of a clock. The manager's breath came quick, ragged now. He looked to his team for support, but the salesman shifted uneasily, avoiding his eyes. Even the guard stood with folded arms, no longer ready to obey. From the far corner, the man live streaming leaned into his mic, voice hushed but electric. "He's losing the room. You can feel it." And he was right. The showroom didn't belong to the manager anymore. It belonged to her silence. The manager's authority was slipping, and everyone could see it. His eyes darted from the frozen monitor to the steady woman by the sedan, to the crowd that no longer looked convinced. Panic makes people reckless, and recklessness makes people dangerous. He snatched a sleek black tablet from the counter, the dealership's client registry, and waved it in her face. "You think you're clever? You think you can fake access? This device holds every client file. If your name was real, it'd be here." He tapped furiously at the screen. Nothing appeared. Only another blinking message: "Restricted. Higher authorization required." The room buzzed. The trainee muttered under his breath, "That's above his clearance." The manager's jaw clenched. His pride burned hotter than his fear. With a sudden, violent motion, he hurled the tablet to the ground at her feet. The crack echoed across the glass and steel showroom. Gasps filled the air. A woman covered her mouth. The man with the live stream whispered hoarsely, "He just smashed the registry." Shards of black glass sprawled across the marble like proof of his desperation. The CEO didn't flinch. She only shifted her stance, steady as stone, her voice calm and surgical. "You confuse destruction with control. That's why you're losing both." Her words sank deeper than the sound of glass cracking. The manager, flushed and trembling, shouted over her, "No, no, you're finished here. I decide who belongs, not you." His spit flew, his fists clenched. But the crowd had already decided. A mother with her teenage son pulled him closer and whispered, "Watch carefully. This is what power looks like when it's calm." The guard at the door muttered again, louder this time, "She's not bluffing. She's in charge." Phones captured every angle. The live stream ticker pushed past 70,000. Comments poured in. He broke evidence. She's still calm. Unreal. This is turning into history. The CEO bent slightly, not to touch the shattered tablet, but to retrieve one small fragment of glass. She set it carefully on the desk in front of him. Her voice was almost gentle. "This piece is all that's left of your control." The manager staggered back, pale now, his breath uneven. For the first time all night, he looked less like the man in charge, and more like a man already replaced. The shard of glass on the desk gleamed under the showroom lights, a small, jagged symbol of what he had broken and what he was about to lose. The manager's hands trembled. He tried to mask it with another burst of volume. "Everyone stop filming. This woman is trespassing. You're all being manipulated." But no one lowered their phones. In fact, more were raised. The live stream viewer count ticked past 90,000. Comments rolled like a tidal wave. "This isn't trespassing. She's clearly in control. History in the making." The young trainee stepped closer, his voice steadier now. "Sir, she's not a trespasser. She's your boss." The words hit harder than the smashed tablet. Gasps rippled. Customers exchanged wide-eyed glances. Someone whispered, "Boss." The manager barked out a laugh, thin and desperate. Her? Don't be ridiculous. She can't even afford to be here. But before his denial could land, the sedan's dashboard screen flickered again. This time, the letters stretched bold across the glass. Executive account active, Carter Group Holdings. The room froze. The glow of the text reflected in stunned eyes, captured in dozens of recording phones. The guard's voice broke the silence. Carter Group? This dealership, isn't that them? The trainee nodded. She doesn't just belong here, she owns here. The words hung in the air, undeniable, irreversible. The manager's laugh died in his throat, his face drained of color. He reached for the keyboard again, frantic, but his badge buzzed red the moment he touched it. Access revoked. The CEO finally lifted her phone again, her voice as calm as it had been since she walked in. Log the incident. Begin immediate review. Her assistant's voice came through clear and sharp on speaker. Confirmed. Corporate control activated. Local management suspended. The crowd erupted in whispers. Phones tilted closer. One woman said out loud what everyone else was thinking. She wasn't the intruder. He was. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was loaded. A silence that felt like the weight of justice finally pressing down. The manager staggered back, his voice small now. This can't be happening. But it was. And the world was watching. The manager's voice cracked in the hollow space between glass walls. This is some mistake. His words stumbled, stripped of their bite. He pressed his badge to the reader again, desperate for it to turn green. It didn't. Another angry buzz. Access denied. The sound echoed louder than his shouts ever had. The guard stepped back, arms folding across his chest. No longer an enforcer, just another witness. It's real, he muttered. She's the one with access now. The manager spun to his team for backup, but their eyes betrayed him. The salesman who had chuckled earlier looked away, ashamed. Another pretended to straighten brochures, avoiding his gaze. No one stepped forward. No one defended him. The showroom wasn't his anymore. The crowd had already shifted. Customers whispered to one another. Phones tilted high. The live stream surged past 120,000 viewers. Comments lit the screen. Justice in real time. Look at her calm. He's finished. And still, she hadn't raised her voice. She simply held her phone steady, her eyes locked on him. Proceed, she said into the line. Her assistant's voice rang clear over the speaker. Confirmed. Local management terminated. Access frozen. Security notified at the corporate level. The manager's knees nearly buckled. He grabbed the edge of the desk to steady himself. His words spilled out frantic. No longer commands, but pleas. Wait, this isn't right. I've worked here for 15 years. You can't just erase me. The CEO's voice cut clean through his panic. You erased yourself the moment you tore up those papers, the moment you told me I didn't belong. Gasps threaded through the crowd. Someone whispered. She gave it back to him word for word. The trainee, no longer trembling, stood taller. She warned you, he said quietly, and you didn't listen. The manager's face flushed deep crimson. He staggered back a step, then forward again, like a man refusing to accept gravity. I built this floor. I trained these people. His hand shook as he gestured wildly at the staff, at the customers, at the showroom itself. This place runs because of me. The CEO's gaze didn't soften. And it will run without you. The sedan's dashboard flickered again, as if answering her. This time, the display shifted to a live feed from corporate headquarters. A seal appeared. Carter Group Holdings. Internal audit activated. The crowd erupted in murmurs. Phones angled higher, trying to capture every frame. The guard finally spoke, his voice firm now. Sir, you're no longer authorized to be here. The manager's eyes widened, horror seeping in. No, this isn't possible. His voice cracked into a whisper. Not like this. But it was exactly like this, swift, public, undeniable. The live stream ticker climbed higher. One man near the door muttered, He doesn't get it. She owns the whole place. And then, for the first time, the CEO stepped closer. Not much, just one measured step. But it was enough to shift the air, enough to make him flinch. Her voice stayed calm, even. 15 years, and this is how you used your authority. By humiliating the very people who kept you in business. By deciding who belonged based on shoes and skin. She paused. Now you're learning who doesn't belong. Phones buzzed. Comments exploded. She ended him. This is the moment. Say it louder. The manager's lips parted, but no words came. He looked smaller now, dwarfed not by her size but by her silence. And everyone in that showroom understood. His collapse wasn't coming. It had already happened. The manager's breath came ragged now, his face pale under the unforgiving showroom lights. His badge still buzzed red in his trembling hand. The sound had gone from defiant to pathetic, a monotone reminder that his authority was gone. The CEO didn't need to raise her voice. She spoke into her phone, each word measured, deliberate. Confirmed termination of local leadership, effective immediately. Her assistant's voice came back steady, broadcast to the entire room through her speaker. Confirmed, termination logged, credentials disabled, security instructed to escort former management from the premises. The word former landed like a gavel strike. The crowd erupted in whispers. One man muttered, "It's done. He's done." Another whispered to his friend, "We're watching justice in real time." The manager stumbled toward the desk, trying to type his way back into relevance, but the monitor refused him again, access denied. He slammed his fists down, rattling pens and brochures, but the sound rang hollow. His empire had already crumbled, and everyone was watching the dust settle. The trainee, steady now, took a step closer to her side. His voice was firm. "You don't belong here anymore, sir. Not her. You." Phones caught the line instantly. Comments lit up the stream. "This kid just sealed it." He flipped the script. Her silence trained him. The guard finally moved, no longer hesitant. He reached for the manager's arm, not roughly, but firmly. "Sir, you need to leave." The manager yanked back, sputtering. I built this place. You can't just erase me." The CEO's gaze was unshakable. "You erased yourself. We just recorded it." The words cut deeper than any shout. He staggered, his authority shattered beyond repair. And as the guard guided him back, the glow of the sedan's digital display shifted one final time. Bold white letters stretched across the glass. "Management transfer complete. Carter Group oversight active." The crowd gasped again. Someone whispered, "It's official. She owns all of it." The livestream ticker pushed past 150,000. Across the world, phones buzzed with the same realization. The humiliation was over. The reckoning had begun. The manager's protests faded as the guard escorted him toward the glass doors. His voice cracked in the empty air, half rage, half desperation. "You'll regret this. But the doors slid shut behind him with a quiet hiss. His words dissolved into nothing. Silence filled the showroom, not the heavy silence from earlier, when tension hung like a storm cloud, but a different silence, clear, charged, undeniable. The CEO stood exactly where she had from the beginning, still calm, still composed. She hadn't raised her voice once. She hadn't needed to. The sedan's digital display glowed one last time, as though bowing to her authority. "Executive oversight active. Carter Group Holdings." Every phone in the room caught it. Every witness knew what it meant. The trainee stepped closer, his voice low but reverent. "Ma'am, I knew something was different about you." She gave him a single nod, then turned back to the crowd. Her words carried evenly, no rush, no strain, just certainty. "You all witnessed what happened here, and you'll remember it, not because of what he said, but because of how I answered." She paused, letting the weight of her silence speak louder than any shout. Then she finished, "I don't need to prove myself by yelling. Real power doesn't shout. It simply removes what doesn't belong." The line landed like a hammer. Phones shook in hands as people captured it, knowing instantly it was the moment that would live beyond this showroom. The live stream counter surged past 200,000. Comments flooded in. Chills. She ended him without a scream. Power defined. The guard, still standing near the door, exhaled slowly. "Never seen anything like that," he muttered. The customers looked at her differently now, not as someone dismissed or humiliated, but as someone undeniable. One woman whispered, "She didn't just buy a car. She bought back respect for everyone who's ever been told no." The CEO turned back to the car, placing her hand gently on the hood once more. This time, the gesture wasn't curiosity. It was ownership. She didn't smile. She didn't need to. Her phone chimed, her assistant's voice crisp. "Management terminated. Transition complete. The dealership is fully under your control." She replied with only 2 words. Good work. Ho. Then she looked around the room one last time, her eyes sweeping across the witnesses, the trembling staff, the glowing phones capturing history. And with quiet finality, she said, "This showroom belongs to me now." No one dared to argue. The silence that followed wasn't emptiness. It was recognition. And for every person who had ever been underestimated, dismissed, or humiliated for how they looked, the silence carried the sound of justice.